little demo screen for me. I don't know if anybody can still hear me or not, but the router's back, and that's really all that matters. I can restart the stream if it doesn't reconnect me or whatever, but I'll have to figure that out. And let's see. Alright, first off, this will be interesting. I'm gonna reload the Twitch page on my end and just see if that auto goes to the live streaming or not. Reloading, it says it's live. And look, it is live. Okay. So I'm back. I don't know how long that took, if it buffered for anybody or what it did, you know. But hey, we're back, and that's, you know, pretty important. Alright, so the router's rebooted, my phone's back on, I have internet access, I'm streaming to Twitch, you know, good to go. And it looks like it didn't buffer anything that I did, so all that I did while I was down was killed that interface on the router, and that's fine. So we're back in here. I wonder if it'll make me sign in again. Yep. Signing back into the router, and now the interface is gone. Again, cleanup stuff like that happens all the time. I don't know how much time I killed just doing that little bit, but you know, that's the type of thing. Day to day, if you're administering a network, you're going to run into all kinds of stuff like that that takes up time and you have to worry about. So, all right. What is next on the agenda? What was I doing? I was looking into why the TFH netbox is not in Foreman. So if we go back to it, where did I put it? I think we have to reconnect to it from the vSphere client. Guacamole.tfhnet.local. It should appear here. Here it is. All right, so this box still has internet access after the loss of the router. It still can ping the gateway itself, which is 172.16.101.1. It can even ping across gateways, I assume. Yep, so it can ping into the Jeremy Box network, which we'll figure that out after it's actually in use, because I don't think customers need to be able to ping into the management network or access it at all. But so puppet.tfhnet not local. Look at that, resolved pings. That's a little prettier. So what happens if we run Puppet? Drum roll. Looks like nothing happens. Let's go back to the first terminal. Oh, look at this. Something happened before. Oh, okay. I just noticed it's trying to connect to puppet.jeremybox.local, which maybe not what we want. Let's break this command here. First, let's see, can we ping that? Puppet.jeremybox.local. We cannot. Don't know why. Don't really care why, honestly, because that's not the behavior that we want anyway. Now, we're going to have to sit here and think. If this machine is going to be configured and needs to communicate with puppet.tfhnet.local, somewhere in the Foreman and Puppet configuration, we're going to have that defined, right? So we're going to have a smart proxy for puppet.tfhnet.local. Or is that going to be a, let's see, Puppet, where would that be? I'm not sure where that's configured. Puppet. This is interesting. Okay, so we have subnets. So if we look at the tfhnet.local subnet parameters, I wonder if using Puppet parameters, we can choose which Puppet server it actually tries to use. So like, it's using JeremyBox.local for provisioning, which is questionably not what we want, but doesn't matter because we'll get there when we get there. But what's really important is this puppet.jeremybox.local. I need to be able to have, I think, a smart proxy in each environment. I need to have, but that can't be true because it's not. This is a thinker. All right, so let's just make sure the Puppet can communicate first, and then we'll do it the right way second. So if I edit the Puppet configuration file, instead of having it point to puppet.jeremybox.local guacamole.jeremybox.local, which is wrong because there is already a guacamole.jeremybox.local. The other thing is this box was cloned from the existing jeremybox.local guacamole box. So that could actually be causing unknown problems that I don't even know about. So I'm going to take a further step back. I'm going to shut this box down. And I'm going to just delete it. It's not in use. It's not production. It doesn't matter. I'm going to re-provision it into his environment and see what that changes about the settings. Because cloning between two environments is a bad idea. Because I don't know what sort of stuff is set up and done by that. So let's just do a trial here. Instead of getting that to work, let's get provisioning into the TFHNet environment to work. We can make it a guacamole server. Sure, why not? So we're going to call it guacamole. It's going to be in the host group. I don't have a host group for TFHNet, so that's cool. Let's go ahead and make one. Host groups. The other thing about this environment that makes it even more complicated is there was an existing infrastructure in place and a Foreman server in place, and I actually built a new Foreman server and brought a lot of machines into the new Foreman server because all of those are on the same subnet, all of those were in the same VLAN, all of those were not very forward-thinking and not in a position where, you know, making new customers, making new environments would make sense because it was just designed for a single tenant, the JeremyBox.local. So there's a lot of considerations that I may have skipped in doing that, but we can solve those now. So anyway, new host group, and this host group is going to be TFHNet. It is production. I don't use these environments properly, and I know that, but I'll figure that out. The default compute profile, small is fine. The Puppet CA can be Jeremy. This is something we're going to have to look at and see if it works or not. In the master. Yeah, we may have to... We'll cross that bridge. I want all the servers in TFHNet to include the Jeremy user, and I want them all to include... Open VM tools. There aren't going to be any physical devices in this environment, so everything's going to be virtual. And then we're going to make another subgroup. This looks like it's a lot of extra work just to do what I'm trying to do, but the reason is so that down the road, logical separation will let us organize things better. We're going to call this one Linux. And we're going to inherit all the other stuff, which is fine. We're going to do another one, which seems anal, but I want to future-proof it. Actually, no. You know what? I was going to add a Ubuntu-specific host group, I don't have to do that until I start making something that's not Ubuntu, if you follow. Like that makes the most sense. Just like in the Jerrybox environment, I have this broken down, and because I have one CentOS box, I have it broken down into Linux and then subdivision Ubuntu. But if everything is Ubuntu, there's no need for a division because I'm not going to ever have to assign classes globally or do anything. But again, I can, and it's not difficult after the fact to add a group and move everything. So this is the only division we need right now. So let's go back to building the host. We're going to have the host group be TFHnet. We're actually going to cancel this because it doesn't know about the new host group until we start over. So Guacamole host group is TFHnet Linux. We're going to deploy it to the Longwood cluster. And we're going to not need any special classes. Error loading interfaces. Internal server error. Okay. So when we get that, that means there's an issue connecting with our compute environment. So we're going to make sure the Puppet can communicate properly with the ESX server. Failed to open TCP connection to vcenter.jerrybox.local. Why? The vCenter works fine for me. I bet I know why. So another issue that we have in this environment is because all of the interfaces on the Puppet server are assigned through DHCP addressing, they fight for which one is the default or primary interface on the Puppet server itself. So there's a race condition when it boots up, and whichever interface gets assigned last becomes the default interface, the default gateway and all that stuff. I bet that's what we're seeing right now. So if we do an if config on the Puppet server, we have all the interfaces. They're all IP'd, and actually this last interface is on the quote provisioning network, which is decom. So the Puppet server needs to be rebooted, and it needs to be have that removed. So I'm going to take care of that now. But we need to make sure that the statically assigned default gateway is through the right interface. So we're going to actually shut down the Puppet server. We're going to edit the settings and kill the provisioning network. Gone. Boot that Puppet server right back up. And everything will be all right. There may be some complaining in the Puppet interface because there's references to subnets that don't exist. Maybe it would have been smarter to clean those up first. They're really just database entries and they're not in use, so if we see errors, that's why, and we can fix that as well. It's probably booted up by now. Although maybe not. If this interface isn't working, it's because it's waiting to reboot, and this will kick us out of here too, yeah. Okay. Back to the command line, if config. We only have two interfaces. We have the 10 and the 101, which is what we want. Which means this should be up by now, I'm assuming. Yep, this is up. We're going to go to check our route. Netstat. It's told me set. Default gateway is 10.1, so it happened to be right. I'll address that later because it's a known issue and I know how to fix it. We're going to go to the compute resources, edit Longwood, and just make sure we can load the data centers. We can't. Okay, failed to initiate a TCP connection to vcenter.jerrybox.local. So ping vcenter.jerrybox.local. Unknown nslookup vcenter.jerrybox.local. And what do you know? It's looking at the router for a domain name resolution instead of at the DNS servers. So why is that? Let's see. If we look at S0E0P2.conf, our name servers are 101.1 and 10.1. So to fix that for now, we have two options. We can disable. See, this is probably why it was disabled in the first place. So here's where architecting the network and thinking about it, it's an exercise in I need to. Okay, if I have DHCP provisioned machines that I want to know the IP addresses of them. So like let's take this Puppet server. The Puppet server is getting its IP address through DHCP, and it's getting that IP address from the router, which means the router is the only machine that knows those two information pieces, the IP address and the host name. I can either configure that information to be sent to the DNS servers and then have the DNS servers know that information, which I think is actually already set up. Let's take a look. So the Puppet server, like I said, is getting its IP address dynamically. So if we do a name server lookup for Puppet on 172.16.10.2, it knows puppet.jeremybox.local is .13 because DHCP is updating DNS. The problem is if I look up puppet.tfhnet.local, it doesn't know about it because the tfhnet.local domain is not managed by the jeremybox.local name servers. So let's go in that direction. Let's make tfhnet.local managed by jeremybox.local. And then if tfhnet ever wants to do their own DNS, we'll let them do that, and we'll cross that bridge. So, and that'll be part of managing a DNS infrastructure for him as well. So let's get out of the Puppet server and go to the name server. So sshns1 and there we go. I'm going to go to Etsy. This is a bind. No, this is varlib. Var named. There we go. The location of these files is different. So we have a tfhnet.local.zone file. That's interesting. It has 3 entries. It has it has router, it has NS1 and NS2. Those entries are wrong-ish because we want for all the stuff for it to live in the 101 network. One thing we could do is we could put the name servers on the 101 network. Now, is that makes sense is the question. Like, any services that I'm going to provide to a customer, do I really want to put an entire interface on their network? No. But what I could do is forward. Okay. Here's an idea. We could set up a NAT rule so that all queries to 172.16.101.1, which would be the gateway for the TFHnet, are forwarded to the name servers in JeremyBox.local. The only problem with that is, can you do round robin NAT? I can't imagine. So this is where black magic networking nonsense comes into play. I can't imagine that you could do that, because if you're unless you do stateful packets, because if you're sending it, actually it doesn't matter. If you're sending a query to a name server, it hits a given name server, and then it just replies. That's a UDP action anyway, so you don't need. Oh man, there's probably like such a simpler, better way to do this, and the alternative is to just put interfaces. If I just put interfaces on every customer network, if they ever do replace their name servers and do their own, then they could just take that over. I think that actually makes the most sense, come to think of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a network interface to both of the name servers and just dump it on the TFH net. This makes sense because JeremyBox.local is more management network than anything else. Like, it's the one that's technically the default VLAN. Any physical devices, it is my network for personal stuff, but it's also what's running this entire environment. So let's just do that way. All right, so we're gonna add a network card through the vCenter, and we're gonna plug it into TFHnet. That's done on NS1. Now we're gonna add a network card on NS2, plug it into TFHnet.local, and that's done. Okay, here's a fun thing we could do. We could have those interfaces on the TFHnet side dynamically allocated. Is there a benefit to that? The benefit would be nothing. If he wants to use 2 or 3, I could move them around. No, because name servers are going to need to be statically. You can't do name servers that are resolved by something else because they're name servers. You have to resolve them first. Oh man, this is complicated. Okay, so what's this message? No, dude. All right. We've added those network cards. Let's statically define them and just go from there. So back to NS1, we're going to first set the IP addresses to something stat. Oh my god, these are crazy names. Etsy sysconfig network scripts, and we're gonna ifconfig -ethernet connection 1. CentOS is stupid. Oh my god, is there like cheater mode? Alright, we're gonna use the GUI because we're cheaters. Ethernet connection 2. Device is unknown. This may have to reboot to pick up the new device. Wait, did we already look at that? ifconfig. This is kind of ridiculous. All right, we're gonna copy that NM2E edit Ethernet connection 1. It doesn't actually have device listed at all. This is weird. All right, whatever. Add Ethernet connection 2. Yeah, sure. Let's see if it just works. IPv4. This is going to be manual. The address is 172.16.101.2. And the gateway is, we're not going to have a gateway. Yeah, we're not going to have a gateway because we don't want this interface used for anything but name resolution. Doesn't need DNS servers because it is a DNS server. And the search domains, whatever, we're not going to do that because it knows. Never use this network for the default route. And require IPv4 address, I'm sure. That's probably good enough. Although, okay, good, /24. Gateway, and it filled in the DNS servers. No, this is Ethernet connection 1, shit. Ethernet connection 2 /24, and then we won't have that other info, okay. All right, quit. And looks like we're good. So if we ping 172.16.101.13, why isn't this working? Let's look at the Puppet server. 16.101.2, can't ping it. 10.2, can ping it. All right. Why can't we ping on the 101? Let's do a TCP dump. -INE ICMP. Syntax error. TCP dump -INE. That works, right? And then ICMP. Okay. Ping NS1 first off. .jeremybox. .local. Unknown host. Oh, because th client ends 32. Okay. Ping NS1. NS1. Etsy. What is it using for its resolve? Etsy/resolve.conf. No, I don't want to use you as name servers. Ping 172.16.10.2. Okay, so we're pinging on the 10 and we see the address and we see the pinger fine, that's fine. 101.2. We don't see that at all on this. Why don't we see it? We're seeing it here. Diagnostics, packet capture on the LAN. Start. Sure, let's do some things. And stop. Alright, so packets captured. That's not helpful. Alright. I don't know what's going on with that. Okay. Anyway, go back to the dashboard here. Black's there again. I think that's enough for one session. I'm kind of getting tired and hungry, so I'm going to take a break. Thanks everybody who tuned in, either live or watch this video later in the future. If you have any suggestions or comments about this, please let me know. If this is something that I should do again, let me know. If it's something I should never do again, let me know. If there's anything in particular people want to see next time, or yeah, just keep it coming, and then we'll go from there. Take care, everybody.